You good? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of New Carrollton Council meeting, March 23rd, Monday, March 23rd. And we're holding this meeting because there was, if you remember 1 week ago, there was a windstorm and everything closed at noon, schools and the government offices. But we're here this evening on March 23rd with a couple of topics, and we'll start with any residents who want to address the council from the podium. And I'll have some help with people watching this. Oh, that's right. I got to read that in. Watching the screen, see if any hands pop up. Anyone want to address us before we start? Brian, I have a request from Ann Cuddy. Is that a hand?
There was somebody coming into the meeting.
I have a request from Ann Cuddy that we read her comments into the record, and she says, I heard someone speak about the animal control officer at the city council meeting on Wednesday. That was last week. I want the mayor to know that she has always done a good job for me. I think she means that Millie has always done a good job for her. Okay? Thank you for giving that to me, Caitlin. All right, no comments, then council announcements. How am I going to start today? Alphabetically? Agnelli, you have any announcements tonight?
Yes, it's a different kind of announcement. I saw it when I was coming into City Hall. I want to recognize Lieutenant Keith Lewis from the police department. He has been with the city since 1998, 18 years serving the residents of New Carrollton. So I want to commend his commitment to safety and the city. Mr. Keith Lewis.
Okay, that's it. Okay. Brianna.
I have a fun announcement, but it'll be a better announcement at the next meeting. This weekend, I'm attending a housing symposium in Seattle that is put on by Local Progress, which is an organization that I'm a member of that provides education and training to municipal elected officials. And I look forward to coming back and sharing what I learned there. That organization generally is geared towards larger municipalities that have a lot more flexibility and zoning authority and things like that. But I shared with them the restrictions that we have as a small city, and they were really excited for me to come. So I got a scholarship to attend this symposium, and I'm looking forward to sharing what I learned when I get back.
That's great news. Thank you. Let's just go down the line. Lincoln, you have announcements tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple. First one is the New Carrollton Shredding Days are coming on Saturday, April 4th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. This is a good time of year to clear your basements out, clear your sheds out, whatever you may have to get rid of. Feel free to take advantage of the opportunity. Again, on Saturday, April 4th from 9 to 12 is a Shredding Day at Beckett Field. Also, we have our upcoming Spring Festival. I think the mayor's excited about this. Saturday, April 11th from 12 to 5, also at Beckett Field. And I think, Madam Mayor, the theme is physical fitness this year.
No, let's get physical.
Oh, let's get physical. Close. So let's pray for a nice day and no rain on Saturday, April 11th from 12 to 5 p.m. at Beckett Field. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Lincoln.
Thank you. Ms. Mills?
Mr. Lincoln, you still fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I had a couple. I enjoyed being with the children at Carrollton Elementary on March, where they had Read Across America Day, and I read to the first graders and second graders. I enjoyed that. Glad they do that each year. Tomorrow, we're having a meeting here at 1:30. It's not open to the public, but I want the public to be aware that 2 weeks ago, we signed a contract for a compensation study. And now tomorrow, we have a kickoff meeting with the contractor at 1:30. And I'll mention again, I'm in the middle of tax season, so if you've had trouble reaching me, I've been busy. I think I've had about 70 or so returns come through my house so far, and I have a lot more piling up. And the last thing I'll mention is I'd like to just put a plug in for the Boy Scouts, the Scouts. It's the Scouts now. I still meet with them on Tuesday night. I'm an assistant scoutmaster. If you know anybody interested in scouting, you can refer them to me, or they can run to the Elks Lodge on Tuesday nights. And that's announcements. Now, number 4, charter amendment legislation, edits, discussion. Now let's look in the packet here and see if everybody has everything they need.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think that we can still proceed just fine, but the edits that I made to the proposed legislation didn't appear in the packet because I had it, and it's possible that I didn't share it the right way.
Yeah,
I
I received them today. It should be at the very end of.
That's in here.
Okay.
They're all in here.
I thought this was all oh, okay. All right. See it like this. Thank you. This is very tiny. Everybody can have their eyesight checked.
All right.
Apologize.
Well, the way I'd like to proceed with this, we have a half hour budgeted in the agenda, and I think we might lose the agenda in this because this topic has been said to suck the air out of the room. But in fairness to all of us and to the audience, let's try to have some structure. So I thought what we might do is allow each person 10 minutes if you need it. That's an hour right there. That's 50 minutes. But 10 minutes to present your thoughts on this after reading Brianna's adjustments and what the proposed legislation is. 10 minutes, and while that person is taking their 10 minutes, and I'll time it. I don't need 10 minutes. I'll time it, and don't interrupt, and don't say you're wrong, and let the person express their views. Get your pen out, take notes. If you have questions, when you have your 10 minutes, you can express a different view. And if needed, we'll go over the 30 minutes. I expect we will. You know, I like to go to bed early, but we'll go over if we need to, I think. And I'm going to ask you another thing, that we stick to the issues and not the people, not the personalities. If we disagree, it's not, we're a bad person. It's just, these are the way we express the issues, okay? So, and I thought, I put an order together that I thought would be a good way to start. I thought either Brianna or I would go first. I'll give Brianna the option because she and I were on the council last term, and I voted one way, she voted another. So would you like to start us off, Brianna? You okay with that?
Certainly, and I don't think that I will even need that much time because I have more questions than I have suggestions.
Okay.
And so if it would be all right with the chair for me to direct the questions to Agnelli, because I believe she's the one who is the author of the document. I can.
You know, I think you can use,
either.
you can use your 10 minutes to do Q&A. I think that would be
Yeah.
all right. And in the end, if we get through this, then I think we should allow people a second chance to say, I've heard this and here's my response to that. Not 10 minutes. I don't think you need this. Just, okay? So that's fine, Brianna, but I'll time you for 10 minutes now and,
Perfect.
okay? And use it as you see fit.
So what my glean of the legislation, I identified 4 areas that I would change if it was up to me, but one of them I might not even be understanding correctly. So the first question I had was, is the intention of this legislation to eliminate same-day registration?
Okay. I was very much involved in the drafting, but Wayne was also.
Maybe, you know, maybe I should go first because my comments were going to be to answer those 4 questions.
Oh, that
As I
might be
saw the
easier.
answers from what I was involved with the writing. So I'll take my 10 minutes. Okay, Brianna, you can get a fresh start.
perfect. That might be easier.
Okay. And my comments would be that there's a proposal to change some things in the code that we thought were misplaced. There's a proposal to revise the charter. And the big change as I see it, and I'm going to be very high level here, is accountability. That in the end, what has been proposed is that we know who votes here. And we don't under the existing charter provisions. It was, let's see, I'm not the author of this, but I was very much involved and consulted and spoke with the people as it was written. And I think it's a thoughtful response to what the community has been telling us. I think it's a compromise and a thoughtful response. With that, I was going to say Brianna had 4 questions and I can answer them briefly. And the same day registration, Brianna, I think we want that. I think that's in there. I think Charles could speak to this later if we need to, but we'd want a provisional ballot. And like anyone who's not registered, a provisional ballot. And once that person goes through the registration process, that ballot could be counted. The protection of the voter information and role-less voting. There's the process that is being proposed is that people register 21 days in advance. And when they do, Caitlin, the city clerk, will get a list of registered voters, about 6,000, 7,000 from the county. And anyone who comes in who is not on that list, but is a resident here, is welcome to vote. They will give us information so we know who's voting. Caitlin will add it to that list of 7,000 or 6,000. If the risk of that being exposed or someone requesting that, first they have to get it through subpoena or court order. And Caitlin would give them the list of 7,000 names. The additional last election was 31 people who voted. They would just be mixed in the 7,000. I think the risk is minimized by that process. We're not going to keep a separate list saying, here's the extra 10 people that we registered here, come and ask for 10 people. We'd have the one list. So hopefully that minimizes the risk there. The residency requirement, that had to do with issues where we're requiring, say, a deed to a property or some type of evidence that you have a residency here and you're attached to it. Well, if you're 22 years old living with your parents and you don't have a deed and you don't have a lease, should you vote? Well, we think so. Well, that would be something that we expect Charles to use his discretion on and say, this relationship stuff, who's eligible? And if somebody comes in and says, well, I'm renting a room in a basement from the University of Maryland, Charles might say, that's not relationship. So we hope that there'll be some discretion there. And all these questions are somewhat opinions on how you think this is going to work out. And concerns about additional language. What does it say? Yeah, I'm not sure I can answer that one. I think that my response was that I'd leave a lot of discretion to Charles on that one. And so that would be my opening statement of that. And I did it in under 10 minutes. And Brianna, I hope that gives you some idea of where I'm coming from. We may need better answers. When Agdeli has her 10 minutes, I'll yield some of my time to her.
Or do you want me?
And I'll let Brianna go now.
Time to address these?
Or you want, that way you want to do that right now while we're on the
Yeah,
questions?
Or if, like, I really don't think it's gonna take that much time, so
Okay.
if I could just ask questions and then
Do that,
whoever the
and then
best
we'll-
person
okay.
to answer them can answer them, that'd be fine with
Let's
me.
do that. All right.
All right, so, I am willing to, and I want to be clear with folks because I mean, you guys have my email because it's in the packet, but, I am willing to support this legislation, even if we're maintaining a role and we're getting away from the role list. I think the role list was the safest way to do it. However, the other 15 municipalities that have, all resident voting in the state of Maryland all have a role. And so I'm okay with that. And I want to just make that clear that is a huge compromise I'm making because I don't know how we would hybridize the list because we don't hold the list. We literally get it delivered in stacks of paper and then we discard it. We don't have like an online platform or a digitized whatever. So if someone were to request it, how would we surrender the newly registered town roll folks with the other folks? We don't hold it. That's my question.
I'd like Caitlin
Just
to address that. Do you get it
they
electronically?
do send it digitally now.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
And just to add on, Dwayne did mention it. The idea is that with the 7,000 we get, we only have how many we're gonna get on that day.
Mhm.
So that would just be, if they got it through subpoena, it would be merged in. It would be the onus on them to go through the 7,000.
Mhm.
We are, I think our feeling was that's the best way of meeting the two ends and then protecting the voters, if you will.
And I just wanted to clarify, subpoena is absolutely not the way it happens. I buy the voter roll every year. Cost me $73 last year. You just buy it. You don't have the subpoena. You have to get a court order. You don't have to have, a tablet engraved in stone. It's really super easy to do. I buy it every year. So anybody could buy it. And so my big concern is just making sure that we're doing what we can to keep it safe. So if we do receive it digital, how is it housed in the building? Like, is it on someone's computer saved to a hard drive? Like, how do we?
Yes,
That's
It's
okay.
safe.
right, it is. It's on, we have a designated laptop we found for the city for election purposes, and it would definitely be on there.
Okay, and so what can we do to make sure that that is safe in terms of safeguarding people's personal information?
Well, it stays here within the building. It's under what are the auspices of security that the city has pertaining to your cloud and your databases. We are under that umbrella. If something else is needed, that will need to be brought to our attention. But it is,
And just to be clear though, if I received the public information request for that, I have to double check with Jason, but the county provides it. So I believe I would probably need to provide it as well.
Absolutely, that's what I want to make sure. No, obviously, if a public information or someone like me who buys the voter roll every election wants to buy it, that's how they would get it. I'm okay with that. Those are good answers. So of the 4 things that I've requested to be changed, I'm eliminating number 2 completely. I'm okay with the way it's being presented. Number one, same day registration, the way it's reflected here, so, and I'm just gonna restate what was said. You would get a provisional ballot and then your ballot would be counted after registration is completed. But could that be done on election day? Could
That's
someone?
Charles'
Yes,
question.
yes, yeah, we, with the capabilities of, if any of the vendors we've used in the past, I guess even down to, the force the hand count, we can do that.
All
But,
right.
and then again, I think something else, Caitlin, I guess we could probably give discussion to, is in the end, if, I know the county doesn't want the end results of it, those voters who we registered.
So-
My understanding is, and even from Hyattsville, talking with them in that process, that they would not want that coming back.
My understanding when I talked to them about it is that when we merge them together and we'd use that for election day, but then I'd have to pull them out before sending it back to the
Back to the
county.
county.
Okay.
Yeah, that's, okay, we agree.
Perfect. All right. So I'm happy, but I feel like what I read, I did not glean from it. Like there's a, for instance, on the first page of the edits, that looks like this, it's titled Proposed Charter Amendment Resolution to Address Qualifications and Residency Requirements to Vote in the Municipal Elections, February 2026. It does say same day registration. And so that I saw that there, but in other places in the documents, it wasn't clear to me, which is why I had the question, like,
Okay.
is same day. So I'm glad that that's resolved. Another easy change, easy solution. So the two other items around residency, these are two areas for which I cannot support the legislation in its current form. And the reason why is it's a constitutional violation. The residency list that was in the previous legislation is the state and federal documentation list of what a resident is. And so for purposes of voting, everyone has to be able to produce the same things. And while I do appreciate, and I do think, I believe you at your word, I believe everyone here at their word, that the idea is to try to get more people to vote than less, right? And not restrict folks who might be renting a room or living with family because they're in college or what have you. I don't believe we should extend it any further. That list is very comprehensive. If you don't have any of those things that document you live here, you don't live here. Because it includes things like school records. So if you're a college student and your college student ID or your college student transcript says you live at 8001 Legation Road, that would be proof of your residency. It includes business licenses, motor vehicle registration. It includes basically every legal form of proof of residency. And I also heard from Caitlin at the Board of Elections meeting that without a list, you're putting a lot of discretion in the hands of one person. And the next person who comes forward could present the exact same item and be denied without a discrete list. And so I will personally sue the city myself if this doesn't get fixed, because in order to prove residency, everyone should be made to prove residency exactly the same way. And I made sure that the list followed both federal and state guidelines of what residency means. And there's a lot of language in the bill throughout it that I think might be some cleanup changes. But I believe that the list has to be there. Otherwise, no one's going to know what they need to bring, and everyone's going to bring different stuff. And the list is very comprehensive of it. Really, if you don't have these items, you don't reside somewhere. If you don't have a bill in your name, if you don't have a cell phone bill in your name, if you don't have an ID with an address, I can't think of a circumstance under which you would have zero legal documents on that, a medical bill, something that demonstrates you live there. I don't think that we should be just taking people's word for it. And that speaks to the concerns that I heard from residents fearing that people were just going to lie to vote. We can't have it both ways. We can't say we want election security and we want this to be clear and clarified, and then give all the discretion in the world to the people who are determining the eligibility for residency. So that's not really a question. It's, I guess, it's a
Agnelli,
statement.
if you want to speak to that before I do, I just say, Your Honor, we did have Jason review this closely. He said this is legally sound. So I guess if you sued us, he'd be defending us. But do you want to speak to it?
And you respond.
Yeah.
And I might respond to her questions when it's my time.
Okay. Well, then that covers your 4 questions. Let's move on to
Oh, well, I have one more.
one more.
One more question. So the concerns about the additional language.
Yes.
I mean, it is kind of similar in that it's related to the familial relationship. That's also unconstitutional. You can't tell somebody they live somewhere or don't live somewhere based on who they live with. And it's also not the government's business at all why you live where you live. And so people can live in non-familial relationships and rent rooms and what have you. And that if they have those other documents, they are a legal resident under federal and Maryland's law. And so anything that would contradict Maryland and federal law, and I have spoken to Jason, and you know, if all lawyers agreed, we'd never have any court cases on anything ever, right? The prosecutor sees it one way, the defense attorney sees it the other way. So
Okay.
just because Jason says it doesn't mean it's right. A judge would be the one to decide, and I don't want the city to have to spend money defending a lawsuit that I talked to other lawyers who agree with me. So the familial relationship is, it's really, and then the independent desire, expressed an independent desire to vote. There actually has been Supreme Court cases on that exact phrasing from the Voting Rights Act. If you show up on election day with documents, you have definitely independently expressed your desire to vote. You know, I think that there's, I will be honest that, that reads to me in a way very much like the people who were asking to vote don't have the good sense in their head to know what they're doing. It's very patronizing. If you show up on election day, what else would you be here for? You know, no one's getting tricked into voting. We can't even get American citizens who've lived here for 50 years to vote. So we're worried that we're tricking immigrants. I don't think so. So
Okay, but
those
I
are the
haven't
two
watching the
concerns.
time closely, but that was 10, so let's,
that was definitely not 10 minutes, because it was 7:18 when I started talking, but we're okay.
okay, I'm not including some of my time, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah.
Then I was gonna have, let's see, I had an order here, I was gonna ask Cynthia if she would go next. You have anything to say on this, Cynthia?
Nope, cause I like our thing.
You like changes, okay. So that's Cynthia, and then I had L for Lincoln. I put this order together, hoping.
I'm
No,
sorry, Cynthia, can you say it loud?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're far away, yeah.
I agree with the changes that we submitted.
Oh.
You don't.
Thank
you.
All right, now Lincoln, we might do this in a half hour anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think I'll take 10 minutes. First, let me start by saying I supported the original legislation in its original form. But now having heard that the residents want change, I'm ready to move forward, compromise, and make change. So that's what I am. But I just have a couple of questions. And
Magnolia will
thank
take
you for
notes.
speaking to me yesterday in length about some of them, but it says present proof of identity using a current or expired photo ID. And you and I talked about this, but for the benefit of the group, can you go over what we talked about?
Yes, the language in the code that spells out the process. It focuses on proof of identity and proof of residency. And so we, in discussing the language for this proposed legislation, decided that allowing an expired government document could prove who you are. You're Mary Jane, but other documents to prove residency would need to meet the requirement of proving that you're there at least 30 days residing in the city of New Carrollton. And so we didn't think it was critical for the proof of identity to be only current, that we could allow a 60-year-old grandma that has a passport from Guatemala, but not a Maryland ID, but can prove residency. So she can prove she is who she is. And then a second set of documents would prove residency.
Thank you, ma'am. I had another question about the voter registry, but it was already addressed by Councilmember Urbina. So I'll go to my last question. It spoke to directly the last part of it. It says challenges to the registration of any individual not believed to be qualified to vote in city elections shall be filed with the Board of Elections of Prince George's County, Maryland, in accordance with said board's procedures. My question was, if the city clerk denies registration, can someone appeal to the New Carrollton Board of Elections, or do they have to go to Prince George's County Board of Elections?
That's an excellent question that, we heard some feedback on the proposed legislation. And it's something that made sense to me when it was raised. It addresses Councilman Urbina's concerns about the city clerk having authority, checks are not being consistent in the interpretation of their voter requirements, which part of my answer would be that the Board of Elections and the city clerk would spell out the process for voter requirements. And we entrust these individuals with our elections, so we would trust their judgment. But let's say that within the process that is established between the board and the city clerk, an individual comes to the city clerk and for some reason their registration is denied. I think it would be appropriate to add language to this proposed legislation, would you say, if the city clerk denies the registration, the resident would have the opportunity to appeal to the board, the New Carrollton Board of Elections, within a short time. And so I'm very comfortable with that recommended edit.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Chavna, for
You're
your
okay?
questions. I'm good.
All right. Agnelli, now,
Since, is that something
That
that
is good.
makes sense to
good,
you,
you're good.
Mr. David?
You're good, you're good.
Okay. I just pulled that one out of my head yesterday.
all
but-
right, Agnelli, I wanted to be lenient with the time and hopefully I would have allowed Brianna more if she needed, but you're the author. If you can do it in 10, let's see what you can do, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If it's important and you need to go over, go ahead.
So, the first thing I want to say is that the purpose of revising the legislation was not to disenfranchise residents that live in the city, to which we expanded the right to vote in 2024. I do want to establish that at the moment, these residents that are not U.S. citizens do not have the right to vote in state or federal elections. So what we're doing in New Carrollton is expanding their rights within a framework that many residents thought was deficient when it was initially legislated and approved. So in looking on how to revise it, there were two major pain points that we repeatedly heard from residents. It was about the 30 days residency requirement and no voter rolls. 30 days, we kept that in this legislation. I wanted 6 months. Other council members, other residents wanted 6 months. But in receiving legal advice and trying to draft the most potent or fair legislation that would challenge any potential lawsuits, we were advised to keep it at 30, and I compromised because I wanted this legislation to be able to withstand any challenges. Other municipalities have this kind of expanded right to residents that are not U.S. citizens with the 30-day residency requirement. So that was a compromise. And on the voter rolls, then as we already established, the idea would be that the names would be merged and it would be harder to identify. Now, you can vote by a voter record rolls from the county, and if you request the ones from New Carrollton and you compare, you could pull out the difference. But at least within our process, we would know if the list went from 7,150 to 7,201. And there would be some sort of record, which we don't have from the last election. In drafting, we kept as much as the language of the original legislation because we had no interest in overturning it. We just wanted to clarify the requirements and move the process to the code. In the future, that process for registration, if there's a need to, it's easier to revise in the code that in the charter. And so now I'd like to address your questions. The same day registration. So the legislation is proposed, let's see.
It's in the, yeah, it's the one that says
No,
charter.
I'm looking for my own version.
It is.
We have two categories. We defined the requirements for US citizens, and we defined the requirements for all other residents. And we also say that we continue to uphold Maryland state law. And so same day registration will continue to be available to US citizens, to the process that Mr. Davis spoke. Under state law allows for same day registration. Although it's not specifically spelled out in the proposed legislation, we refer to continuing to follow state law. What is different under the category of all residents is that they are no longer allowed to do same day registration because we're introducing the requirement of registering with the city clerk at least 21 days before the election.
May I pause you for 1 second? That's the opposite of what he
Yeah, I
just said.
thought, I didn't understand it that way, but go ahead. I thought.
Yeah.
I made a note to clarify what
Okay,
he said.
I thought we talked provisional ballot, but okay, I missed that.
So the provisional ballot is still available to US
Oh.
citizens under the county board
Oh,
of
yeah.
elections process.
Okay.
But we are establishing a requirement for residents eligible to vote in the cities of New Carrollton of at least 21 days before the election.
So I was gonna
So
correct that, and I
same-day
apologize. My misunderstanding.
registration would not be available for those other residents that are not US citizens. So I knew,
You know, I misspoke, but okay.
okay,
Veronica, take notes. You can get back to her
Yeah,
later,
no,
please.
exactly. I'm taking notes and I have follow-up questions.
Okay.
so for protection of the voter rolls, we talked about that. We follow other municipalities process or time period of 30 days. Then to the residency requirement, I spoke about a compromise. Some council members wanted more than 30 days. I was one of them, but I compromised after receiving legal guidance. So again, let's go back to proof of identity and proof of residency. And so we established you can prove your identity with any kind of document. For proof of residency, we presented some simple documents, but it doesn't mean they cannot use other documents. But we did not want a laundry list. The fact that laundry list is used for registration in state and federal elections, that's for US citizens. We're establishing process for individuals that are not US citizens. And so we don't have to follow state and federal law because we are creating new law here. Again, it was not about spelling from 1 to 13, the only things available. We started by suggesting a lease, a mortgage, a rental agreement, but there are other documents where the Board of Elections, along with the city clerk, will establish a process, the particular application that they will need to fill out, and we will trust them to implement that process and use legal rigor in determining when someone comes in to register. Okay. You are threatening the city with a lawsuit. That's your discretion as an individual, as a resident, as a council member. What you intend to prove with that, In drafting this, we took into consideration that threat hanging over us, but we still believe that there were some major deficiencies with the legislation that was approved in 2024, and we're trying to fix without overturning the rights that were already provided to the residents in 2024. I wish the process had been different, but we're dealing with what's in front of us. The next, am I still on time?
You're okay.
Okay. Number 4, regarding additional language and familiar relationships. So there, we're trying to get away from that prescribed list. And I got 2 examples. A young college kid that doesn't have a lease, doesn't have a mortgage. It could have a medical bill, and they could bring that. But let's say they don't, besides they don't have it, but they can bring their parents' mortgage and a birth certificate that says Mr. Smith is my father, and the mortgage is on Mr. Smith, so there is a familiar relationship. And then they would be able to register under the procedures in the code 50-1. Now, if it's the third cousin living in the basement, there's hard to prove a familiar relationship there. So it's very simple. That individual needs to meet the residency requirements by any of the other available documents that they can provide.
Okay, that's 10 minutes, but I'm gonna let you go and I'll give Brianna some extra time to respond.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And independently expressed desire to vote. It was about ensuring that the individuals with disabilities are allowed to vote, and that's part of all legislation, or individuals that might be seniors and dementia are not taking advantage of. Thank you.
That's 11 minutes. That's good. Did you take notes, Brianna?
Yes, I do. And I have a couple of questions and some major concerns. The biggest question / concern I have is you're creating 2 different processes, one for US citizens and one for non-citizens. And that is the constitutionality issue. If you're bestowing the same right under the law, the process has to be the same too. That would be like saying undocumented students can only attend PGCPS if they do X, and students who are US citizens can only attend PGCPS if they do Y. The Supreme Court has said all children in the United States have the right to attend a public school. There can't be a higher barrier to entry for folks based on citizenship and alienage. And so, in addition to that, in every municipality that has all resident voting, there are American citizens who choose to register on the town roll, many of which do it to avoid jury duty. More power to them. So by having 2 different processes, let's say, for instance, I decide I'm going off the grid, I'm turning in my Maryland driver's license, I'm getting away from being registered to vote because I don't want to get called for jury duty. Now I have to go through a different process to register on the town roll than what's being created here is an addition. There's an assumption in the way that this is framed that only non-citizens would be on the town roll. And so the idea of having a 21-day registration period for which you'd have to be registered in advance of the election is creating an additional barrier on the basis of alienage only. There's no other basis, because you're assuming that that person, if they were American, could go register with the county or at a DMV, and you're creating 2 different situations. So that's actually, I mean, I think that's
Okay, now I want to
constitutionally fair.
interrupt here. Do you want her to answer that, or you want to go to another question, Brianna?
I guess the other question that I would have would be, well, I guess, I mean, why would an immigrant have to register in advance, but an American citizen could register same day and vote? What would be, why?
You took notes, Agnelli, right? You have 2 questions to answer.
Okay. A US citizen has rights to vote in state and federal elections governed by those laws. Our municipal elections are under the Prince George's County Board of Elections, so they can register on the day of elections. Item B, which is what I'm looking before, spells out the requirements for a U.S. citizen to vote in the Carrollton election. Any other resident is qualified to vote in municipal elections if they follow the process, and it would allow any other resident, whether they're a U.S. citizen or immigrant, regardless of the immigration status. So a college student that is born in the United States and for whatever reason has not registered with the county can use the process under number C, any other resident to register. And if you look at it, 1, 2, and 3 are exactly the same. Permanently dwell in the city of New Carrollton, be 18 years of age on the date of election, and independently express a desire to vote. The difference is number 4. For U.S. citizens, they can register with the Prince George's County of Elections or with the city clerk at least 21 days in advance. And for those individuals that want to register with the city clerk using the process in code 50-1, they need to do it at least 21 days. That is the requirements that we're establishing for those individuals that do not meet the state and federal requirements. You say they needed to be treated the same, but under the law, they are not the same. They don't have the right to vote in state or municipal elections until New Carrollton expanded that right. So we should be within our rights of establishing the voter eligibility requirements.
I guess we can respectfully disagree there based on that, because federal and state law doesn't apply to New Carrollton elections, but the Supreme Court made law, so to speak, does. And I hope this is why I'm not a law professor, right? We decide what a resident is in New Carrollton. We decide what the speed limits are. We decide, what the schedule of fees are. We decide everything about the domain that is New Carrollton because we are an incorporated municipality with the ability to under the Maryland Constitution to determine what's what that happens in our city. But we do not have the right to treat different groups of people differently under the law. The analogy that you just gave could be used. For instance, let's say we decided to change the speed limit on Legation Road to 20 miles an hour where it's now 25. But every time an immigrant gets a ticket, we're going to give them a double fine. Under the way that you just described it, you would say, well, we are the ones who decide what the speed limits are, and we decide what we want to charge the people, so we can decide to charge people differently. We cannot, because that would be an instant civil rights violation. By making an additional barrier, by making people have to register 30 days in advance, I guarantee I get this law thrown out, and it will cost the city lots of time, attention, and money. And so I'm giving you that warning now. I guess my next question would be around the, I do understand and I appreciate your clarification, your thinking about the additional language about the independent, express an independent desire to vote. I still think it's a little problematic. My dad is blind and 92 years old. I help him fill out his ballot. Now he gets it mailed to his house, but when I used to take him to the voting booth, I had to go and do it with him. And so I'd sit there, Dad, who you want me to vote for? And he tells me the names of the people he wants me to vote for. And for all the offices he doesn't know, he tells me, do what you want. Most of the time I just leave it blank. That's me, working in support of a person with disabilities. I can see why you didn't want somebody to be coerced into voting for somebody they didn't actually choose, but the language itself will get this law thrown out because there's been many cases with that exact phrasing. And I just want to be clear, this isn't really a question, it's a comment, but Councilmember Malave, when you sent the council a bunch of questions in advance of the public hearing that we had in December 2024, and one of the questions that you asked was, by what percentage would the U.S. citizens' votes be diluted by the presence, and that was the word you used, diluted, by the addition of immigrant voters? That to me makes me feel like you're showing me who your allegiance is to. And our allegiance here as a body is to every single resident of New Carrollton, not just the ones who were born on the opposite side of a made-up line. And so a lot of what you've said today is further clarifying why I've been taking so much action on this. I definitely happy to see that same-day registration is available for some, I guess. But if it's not available for all, I can't support this bill. I okay with the fact that we're going to maintain a role, and I really appreciated the answers of the clerk and the Board of Elections chair, because I do have confidence in your ability to keep it safe. And you're following the same processes that other cities are doing, so I'm glad to see that. So that's no longer a concern. But the residency list, I think we have to, in order for you or I, if we moved from New Carrollton to Mount Rainier today, we would have to prove proof of identity and proof of residency to change our registration to vote at the MBA. That's what you have to, every time you go to the MBA, you have to have one from column A and one from column B. I'm asking that all our residents do the same. And so it's interesting that this is titled clarification, because it's so much less clear than it was before. And for those reasons, I am going to continue to encourage folks to speak out on this. I already have about 50 New Carrollton residents who signed a petition, and we're all encouraging the mayor to veto this bill. So that's all I got.
Okay, now the Lincoln and Cynthia and myself, I've heard enough. Do you guys want to hear more?
Mr. Chair, I actually don't need to hear more. I think the back and forth between Councilmember Malave and Councilmember Urbina has kind of given me some clarity as to what are we doing when we go forward. But I do have just a minor quick question. Where did the 21 days come from? Was that in a template from another municipality?
While she's thinking, I will say that Greenbelt does use 21 days, but
We looked at other municipalities and what was reasonable.
Fair enough. I have no further questions.
okay, Cynthia, no questions? No. I'm ready to move on to the next item. Okay,
I'd like to respond to comments about
okay,
when I was not in the council.
okay.
That was ancient history when Chairperson Urbina at that time proposed this legislation, and a number of residents strongly asked for it to be presented as a referendum. I, at all times, made sure I did not express whether I supported or rejected the right of other residents to vote in the elections. My opposition was to the process of 5 individuals deciding whether to expand the right to vote to people that were not US citizens. And by putting it to referendum, the citizens would decide to expand the right to vote to others in the city, and it would dilute the power of the vote of residents. And that's why I asked for those numbers, and I couldn't get them. But while I was opposing the legislation, I didn't speak to whether I supported immigrants' votes or opposed it. My opposition and many of the residents' opposition was to the process. In a referendum, then I would have decided as a resident and a US citizen, do I extend the voting rights to other residents? And I put a lot of thought. I tried to incorporate the feedback that I got from residents when I was a resident and as a council member. And so this is my way of responding to the concerns from residents, the same way you thought you were responding to a group of residents that raised concerns. This is a different council composition than what we had in 2024. So this council can reach different decision, and the threat of a lawsuit against the city should not intimidate us in deciding to move forward with this legislation. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'll close by saying that I thought this was a thoughtful compromise to bring the residents' concerns in that those residents feel were not heard in 2024. And it's not going to be perfect. And I go back to the example of the attorney who helped us rewrite our charter years ago, Jay Golo, a municipal attorney. And he said, I can go and massage the language all over the place, but I'll make you compliant with the law because some things have changed and your charter goes back and hasn't been changed for 20 years. He said, but whatever you write in there is subject to interpretation. So anybody can pull a piece out and say, if it means this to me, it means this to somebody else, and they can sue you. So we're not going to get perfection here. But I think that from everything that I've heard, this is a reasonable compromise, a response to what happened in 2024 and what's in the charter right now. So with that, we went over the 30 minutes. In 10 minutes, Jason's supposed to sign, and if he signs in early, I'll have Jasmine tell me, but we
It
can
was
move.
8, not 8:30 for Jason?
Jason said 8, I
Okay.
believe. I believe when I talked to him, he said 8. If it's 8:30.
I felt like we said 8:30 last week, but you could be right. You could.
Well, I spoke with him on the phone and I said, when are
Okay.
you gonna break free? And he said, I think I'll be free at 8. So if it's 8:30, he's not there yet, right?
Maybe we could move to number 6.
We can move to number 6 and let the mayor do that presentation. That's a good idea. And we still have 4 that's open. And we have, 5 that's open. We'll move to number 6. You ready to present that, Madam Mayor?
Sure, sir, Chair. Just wanted to, bring to the council's attention that we're getting a lot of distress calls from residents for one or more issues. It's coming to our constituent services, then it's uploaded to, our city manager, and now it's in my hands as to the amount of residents that are having issues one way or the other within the city. So I'm bringing it back to the council's attention because this is where you guys make your rules and your laws, and to see whether or not it is in your heart that you want to help any of your residents in New Carrollton, especially with the utilities and what is happening now with the utility bills. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention. The onus is going to be on you guys as to whether or not the option is available to help the residents, how. So that's why I'm bringing it to you.
Okay, what I would add to that is, and Brianna can speak to this because I wasn't on the council, but when the city received, what does the ARPA stand for? American Recovery Rescue, right? When we received those funds, that a good portion of those funds were used, and I have a chart somewhere showing those money were used to assist residents with a lot of projects, and there were guidelines set up. So if the council wants to do this, you have to define categories of what we will help with, and you have to define amounts, and the city has to put a process in place. But of course, I don't think any of us are opposed to helping people in distress. And as Brianna pointed out, when the federal employees were furloughed, the College Park has a distress fund, and they have a lot more money than we do, and they have a good tax base. But I think that fund is $5,000, subject to review by the mayor and council, up to $5,000. So, and I have to look online to verify. Do you remember, Brianna? Was it 5,000?
I think it was up to, yeah.
Up to 5,000. So I certainly wouldn't be opposed to that, but I'd have to see a proposal in writing of what the parameters are, what we're going to do. And let me pass it around. We have time to discuss it. I know you have thoughts on that.
Do we have funds from ARPA left? And what are they within the scope of next year's budget? How much are there to give out at this particular time? So I guess I would need to see it within the context of fiscal 27 budget and a little more concrete detail on what kind of assistance would we give with utility bills or rent or parking tickets. So a little more detail.
Yeah, I mean, and I'd add to that, the council members of College Park who spoke to me about this, that each one is reviewed carefully because there are people who want to get the money who may not need it. And it's up to the city to decide what is the truly distressed case or who really needs it. Brianna, what are your thoughts on that?
I really like the idea. I think there's a couple of ways we could go about it. So yes, we did get a lot of ARPA money, and we have a report that says that was thoroughly mismanaged and didn't go in accordance with what the council had told the administration they wanted in that. But I think the way we could do it going forward would be either A, to issue a grant to a nonprofit organization and have them manage it. So that way it's not New Carrolltonized, it's not politicalized, it's not you're not approving a petition for your neighbor or your best friend. Some third party entity would receive the applications, process them, review them for eligibility, and then determine if the person, needs the funds and is deserving or so, then they would be issuing the checks and we could pay that nonprofit. I like that idea. And then the second idea would be to have a city committee doing it, but I would more prefer a nonprofit just because
Independence.
independence. Yeah. And I feel like the same people volunteer for everything in our city. And as much as I love all of our volunteers, to put more on them would be a lot. So I think having a nonprofit aid group would be the best way to go about it, and have them set up like very rigorous, whether it be proofs of income, proofs of residency, all that stuff that we would need to demonstrate that the person's, eligible. And then I would be willing to fund it. We do have, I mentioned in a council meeting earlier this year after we attended the fall conference in Garrett County that I thought that our operating reserves were too low, and I actually was mistaken. And I learned that actually our operating reserves are much higher than most cities are, like considerably, like almost 85% of our budget. And so we do have the money, and I would definitely support, if this mayor wanted to, putting aside 160,000, which is about 10% of our operating budget, into a fund to support residents. I had a resident who reached out to me who needed a new hot water heater, and I didn't know what to do to tell him. And it was an elderly guy, he couldn't afford it. And, that's not like a bill, it's not the same as like getting utility assistance, but I mean, it's very much needed. And I think that we should be able to help people in positions like that. And so I think we should have like a wide array of like a wide amount of things that we can assist with, but have a third party administer it.
I like the thought. Lincoln, what do you say?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, we are in times where folks are hurting. I'm not even sure what week we're in with the partial federal government shutdown and the TSA employees who are working without pay. So there's no doubt that people need help. I would just need to see a proposal, the amounts, the funding source, and would have to determine what the eligibility requirements are for the folks to apply. But once I see those items, I will be all for it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Cynthia, you have a cold. Do you have anything to add?
I have two things.
Okay, go ahead.
I have two things to say. First of all, when the guy on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue came into office, I asked my fellow council members right here, and two of them told me, it's not on us, it's up to the state. And I caught an attitude and didn't say anything else. Secondly, I was a chairman during the pandemic, and I never saw a report saying that we did anything wrong with the money. We were paying electric bills, we were paying gas bills, and we weren't giving it to them in their hand. We were paying it directly to Pepco. So I would like to see a report that says that we misused the money. Because we had checkpoints. They had to show us the bill. And explain to us why it wasn't paid. And I would like to see that. But I am all for us handling it as a city, because we did it before. Until I see that something was done wrong, because we were monitoring that bill or on that. We were monitoring. So I like to see that, because I believe that the city of Carlton can handle what we need to do for our residents. Thank you.
Okay, now I'm not gonna comment, but we'll come back to it because Jason just signed in. And I just noted that College Park's limit is 2,500, not 5,000. So it's 2,500. Okay, please don't go away, because even though the agenda doesn't show it, I'll allow time for you to address the council after we're done with Jason and the next item, if you're willing to stay that long, because you heard some things tonight you may want to respond to. But for now, we're gonna go into closed session. Charles, you're dismissed. The audience must go.
Oh, no, we're doing the tournament. Hopefully that doesn't go out long.
I'm sorry, what?
I would like to motion to move into closed session
Can you read the entire motion?
Let me see. Is it on the, it's on the
I
agenda?
move
Yeah.
that the city council of New Carlton will adjourn into a closed session in accordance with the general provisions article of the annotated Code of Maryland, sections 3-305B7, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice. Topic: legal advice to city council relating to department head salary versus budget.
Okay, you got a second?
Second, that's what I was gonna say.
Okay, now we'll take a roll call vote, and we'll start with Caitlin giving us the list. Who do we want first?
Just-
This is the vote can be recorded, yes.
Yes.
Leave it on.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
can the motion include who you want to be in the closed session?
sure.
That's what, you need to give notice of who's gonna be in the closed session.
Cynthia, would you start to that we want the council and the city clerk and the mayor?
Attendees will be the mayor of New Carlton, the city clerk, legal representative, and the city council of New Carlton.
Okay. Now, do you have a second? And we're doing a roll call vote.
I'll second it.
All right, we'll just go down the line. Dwayne?
Okay,
Councilmember Rosenberg, Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Lashley,
Aye.
Councilmember Urbina,
Aye.
Councilmember Malavate. Aye.
okay. We'll close the door.
And then the other question I had for you is for the stop sign cameras.
Yes,
We have been advised that it's a state requirement that we have a public hearing for that. So talk to chief. We were wondering if on April 15th, if we could make that as a portion of the meeting.
That's the charter amendment meeting day.
No,
No,
that's
that's
it's a
April
Wednesday.
18th. We're meeting on 13th and 18th for charter amendment.
Yeah, so
Monday and Saturday.
Yes.
And she's talking Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Okay, I guess I misheard the number, sorry.
So I just want to check if that was okay or if you wanted.
I'm all right with the 15th.
I think it's fine.
I'm good with the 15th.
Okay. All right, we're on the air. Brianna, you want to take over?
Sure. So
C6?
I'm reading the whole charter and code because I have nothing better to do with my time. And so there are 3 different chapters of the code that relate to budget. Most of it is just very outdated because we've changed positions, things like city treasurer just doesn't exist anymore. And so I went through line by line for chapter 6, 14, and 18 and identified some areas where it just needs updating. But then I identified, like, I put some comments because I didn't want to be the one to say, this is how we should do it. I wanted us to have a discussion as a group. So, if you look at this, it's page 13 of 19 in the packet. The first area that I think is important for us to address is, and I renumbered some of this stuff because a lot of it's just listed as one long paragraph and I feel like it's harder to read that way. So every change you see is a change that I made, like creating paragraphs 1, 2, 3. But what's listed as paragraph 3 under 6.1, the budget shall be a line item budget listing expenditures by object classification and such details the council deems necessary to allow its proper evaluation of the proposed expenditures. That's definitely, I think, where we should make changes because now we've all said that we want to have line by line every single salary of each employee listed by job title. So I figured that's where we would put that if everyone was okay with that.
That's perfect. That's what I had in my notes. Each staff person's salary should be displayed on individual line items.
So I'm gonna
Are you
edit
saying
this
staff person or position?
position
Position is what I meant.
Yeah.
My apologies, position.
listed by line item. And then, maybe, is there anything else that we would want listed out differently than we've already historically seen it in the past? And I feel like it's actually a good question for each of us because us 4 have more experience, but Agnelli being fresh eyes also could probably come up with good ideas that we wouldn't think of because we've been doing it for long.
I would like to know if there's a new element going into that line item, if there could be a note of
Such-
what's new into it. So maybe there's, okay, whatever line item is for translation services.
Mhm.
You know, that last year might have been $700, and now with Agnelli needing an interpreter, they're budgeting 6,000.
Mhm.
And so, but maybe in that translation services, it's also the interpreters for Spanish and English.
Mhm.
And so if a particular item has new elements into it, a little note or asterisk note number 7 to let us understand if there's a change.
I'm going to ask you to help me write that because I know what you're saying, but I don't know how to write it.
So a dramatic change on a line item identified by the reasoning before it gets to us. So when we are reading, we can understand.
No, I
what
agree.
the
Can you
jump-
help me write that when it
okay,
comes time
where,
to do it?
where we see the jump. And that helps us in doing a thorough initial analysis, but it also helps the residents that might or might not be present when we're doing a discussion.
So I'm making a note to myself that says, explain changes in detailed
In notes.
notes for when there's a big, when there's a big change up or down.
Up or
Okay.
down.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like for instance, someone mentioned, and the mayor mentioned it in closed session, but this isn't the secret. Our previous public works director was working part-time because he was a retiree. And so other people might look at the budget and be like, why was this one making this much and this one's making that much? A little note that said that would be helpful to we know this because we do this all day. The average reader who for some reason stumbles across our budget, a note could be helpful to understand why, like big changes. Is there anything else that people want to see in that? Because, you know, it says the council deems necessary to allow proper evaluation. What do we deem necessary?
More information besides numbers. Keep the comparison with previous fiscal years.
Mhm.
I think we have 3 years.
Mhm. Sometimes it's more, but yeah.
We do have the descriptions in there.
The descriptions are there, and the descriptions are what they are. So it's not about the change in, that's when you do the budget analysis or they explain what the changes were for, like up or down. But in the narrative says what that line item is for, but not the changes.
She's asking for that to be added, some type of descriptor. And so once she writes it, then I think once we'll have legislative language in front of us, then it'll be easier to kind of fulfill that. So then, paragraph C is fine, you know, Agnelli, I see you have a comment here at 6.2, but it just says your name. What was your thought?
I was really bothered last year when the public hearing notice for the budget discussion was 5 days prior. And as a resident, I didn't have time to prepare it. And I remember questioning the city manager, when was this announced and how long ago? And it was like 5 days ago. So we should give residents more notice. If we have to notify them 21 days in advance for public hearings on charter changes, why aren't we consistent? We have the budget in April 1st, and we can give them plenty of notice because we know when we're going to discuss it. Yes.
So, I mean, officially, yes, we do have to do it according to this, because it's not a charter change, it's budget. But in the January newsletter every year, it has the timetables that announce the public hearings. And it'll be in the newsletter again in April with those on top of, it's on the website and things like that. So, and I would tell you, the newsletter to me is your big piece, because a public newspaper,
No one reads.
Well,
Oh,
we're
okay.
going to get to that
Not buying that
section,
anymore.
but the newsletter that came out in January, I read it in the bathroom. It might not be there when we get to discuss the budget the first week of April. And let's be realistic, who's going to remember that? And so it's a matter of us being the council and the administration, educating the residents. The budget is going to be discussed at this time, and there's a public hearing notice 3 weeks in advance.
So would you like to change it to 21 from 5?
Yes, that's the short answer to it.
I'm fine with that.
But if we
Myself,
get to
and
the
then-
public
I-
newspaper.
Yeah, so actually, even in this paragraph, it talks about newspaper. I would like it to change it from newspaper to social media, city website,
Mhm.
school
And constant
newsletter.
newsletter,
Yeah,
that's exactly.
yeah, all of the things that that people actually do see, because I don't even know what people read. Social
So-
media.
Do we need to be that prescriptive of saying at least 21 days and repeat it 3 times
Yeah.
before the actual hearing?
So you're saying maybe not list the exact places we would publish, but just say that we would publish.
No, I like the idea of social media, website, concept, but besides announcing it 21 days in advance, repeating the announcement at least twice.
Yeah, I don't know that we have to write that in the code,
Okay,
but I agree.
that could be part of a communication strategy.
Eliminate the newspaper.
So we'll eliminate the newspaper requirement, and that actually saves a little bit of money because we don't have to pay for the ad. You're just not running an ad. Forgive me if I'm like railroading people, if people have questions and stuff.
Just go back to briefly, letter C. I know it is already done so, but do you think we should add languages that the budget is available?
Online.
Online,
Yes, I agree.
because I had that in my notes.
Almost went to jail.
Published online, yep.
It happens, but we want to make sure we have it.
So everybody always has to do it, yeah.
Exactly. Thank you, ma'am.
Can you say what that was?
Oh, that the budget must be published online as opposed to just available for public inspection. We already know we do it, but now it'll just be the law.
We codified.
Yes. All right, 6.3, the council may insert new items or increase and decrease. I put in here, and I'm not like married to this idea, but I do think we should be communicating with the mayor as early as possible so that he or she can be accommodating to the council. So I put that we should be submitting our list of budget items no later than February 1st. Obviously, that's already passed for this year. And I wouldn't say that like, if you don't do it by February 1st, then you lose the right to speak at the public hearing. But, I think it's only fair to the administration that they get budget information from us while they're actually writing it. Thoughts?
What kind of budget items will be?
We can do whatever we want. Like I just proposed that we put 160,000 to a fund to help residents.
So maybe we should consider having that discussion in December and January, so we can make a proposal to the city administration
February 1, yeah.
of council ideas.
Do we want to codify that? Do we want to hold ourselves by law that we have to do that by?
I wouldn't do that, but
The only positive of putting a date would be that if we had an instance, I'm not saying that this mayor would do that, I don't think she would, but like, I told the mayor 10 times I wanted to do this thing and then they just ignored me. At least I would have a law to say, I submitted it in accordance with this law and then it was ignored, like that's possible. So by putting a date in there, it kind of puts accountability on the council to actually have done something by a certain time. Because I could see the opposite where all of a sudden May 30th comes around, we haven't passed the budget yet. And council member so-and-so is like, I have a really good idea right now. Let's put this in the budget. And now the city has to go crazy trying to, accommodate that idea at the last second. So I think it holds both sides accountable. Put a date, but
if you put a date, if there be some ambiguity that additions are available, are allowed afterwards.
yes. But at the same time, I don't want it to be like I said, on the eve of budget, we can't tell the mayor, oh, by the way, we want to buy a new fleet of police cars, figure it out and tell us, and do it because we won't pass the budget until you do this. I don't want it to be, and nobody should be able to hold the other side hostage. It should be a collaborative process. But I don't know how to write that specifically. I just wanted to bring it to the council to discuss. Do you want to get with me and we can think about it and present
Okay.
some legislative
I'm
language?
concerned about being binding. About
Yeah.
Being a hard deadline.
And we could also just ask Jason if like what he thinks, about that. All right, so it is the paragraph C It is recommended that the budget be adopted in sufficient time for it to become effective on the first day of the fiscal year. If this is not done, the council may adopt a resolution to authorize continuing expenditures for city services at a rate not to exceed expenditures for the previous fiscal year until the new budget becomes effective. What's funny is, back when Katrina was mayor and for her first term, this is something we actually wanted to do, and we were told specifically by Jason we couldn't do it. And I didn't read the code back then, so I didn't know what I was talking about, but I'm curious if this is actually just illegal now, like maybe the law has changed since this was written. So I think we should just have Jason look at that, because we were told specifically that we were not allowed to have continuing resolutions, that budgets had to be finalized. And that's why we did remember we did 5 budget hearings in 10 days, or 5 budget meetings in 10 days to try to get that first budget through.
We could be patient with that this year too, depending on the timing of the compensation study.
That's true too. So I want Jason to just look
Okay.
at that provision and make sure it's still legal. The next section, anytime it said 2/3 or 3/4, I changed to supermajority because that's the language we adopted in the charter changes to make it uniform. When we had a 4-member council last year, 3/4 would be a supermajority. We're a 5-member council, so 4/5 is a supermajority, just editing the language. Same thing at the bottom, about editing the language to change from CAO to city manager, from accounting to comptroller. But there is, and so Jason can go through and just make everything uniform with the changes we made last year. But in 6-5,
No, before you get out of.
Okay, go ahead.
6-4,
okay, go ahead.
number D.
Mhm.
We need a paragraph limiting the ability to spend money before coming
Yes,
to the
actually,
council.
it's actually 6-5. For some reason, the margins were wrong. See,
Okay,
6-4, 6-5, yeah.
so,
So
Sorry.
yes, that's exactly where I was gonna get to. Yeah,
Okay.
6-5. I don't know how this needs to be written, but obviously the legislation we passed this year speaks to that same issue. Budget amendments are totally appropriate and necessary and have to happen in instances of emergency and things like that. But it really shouldn't be the norm for anticipated expenditures. And so I wanted Jason to come up with a language that basically says the mayor, the administration can't spend money the council didn't budget. Like, that's what comment
No,
eight
they still
says.
do it, so what's the difference?
Maisha?
It's there
So
right
I'm,
now.
I'm gonna bring Mr. Rosenberg back to something that the auditors have recommended year after year,
Oh,
is that we get away, and like even College Park and Greenbelt can do budget amendments within the departments with a note to council. And so, that was a recommendation when we had Diane Mock. And then even Mr. Dis has talked about that.
can you elaborate?
so like the police, let's say the police need to buy bulletproof vests and they had one less officer than they expected, they could take that money from that officer who was not with the vacancy and move it to buy the bulletproof vests, like without getting our approval first. They would tell us after.
So there are limits. So this came up when Joe Negro was here as the city administrator. He's like, what do you mean I have to go to council every time we go to do a budget amendment? Because in College Park, he never had to do that. And so there was a memo that would go to council. Mr. Rosenberg, you could speak to this probably.
No, I remember, but I remember we also got a report from Calvin Brown with 3 findings, and the first finding was that the city is not accountable. And there are separate accounting systems going on in police and in public works. And you yourself, Maisha, told us the way it happened is we put a budget, they just spend a bunch of money, exceed it, then we got to come in with amendments. Things were not being accounted for. So that was the reason behind we didn't want to give that kind of authority to the departments to shift funds around. So I'm not ready to answer on that one tonight, but I do know I have the Calvin Brown report if you haven't read it, and it was very condemning of our account. We're not accountable. It doesn't mean we can't get a clean opinion from the CPA firm, because as Bob just told us this week, that it's his opinion that it presents fairly the numbers we give them. They don't get into fraud. They don't get into internal transactions. But I'm uncomfortable doing that right now, and I want to give it some more thought.
Could we,
When Mark was here,
Well, now we do have does everyone use the same accounting? Is OpenGov for everyone?
Yes, and so what Mr. Rosenberg is talking about, so each office manager then keeps track of the spending just as a reconciling
What was that?
piece. Each department keeps track of stuff to make sure it's coded where it goes. But no, everything officially it was in AccuFund, now it's in OpenGov. But yes, it's one accounting system.
I remember there was a comment that was made at a meeting once where, and I don't remember who said it, but the comment was like, finance is the last to know when
Maisha said that.
it was you? Do you remember that comment?
Which is why we went to decentralized purchasing. Because yes, in police, public works, or wherever, everyone did their own purchasing
Mhm.
and the credit card would come through or the invoices. So finance would be the last. And so then that's why we've now we hired a purchasing officer to now, so everyone, and we have OpenGov. So now everyone can do the request through the system.
And so
We do, because we never did POs. We do POs now.
does that help with the accountability issues?
Well, it does, but I haven't taken a close look at it, and Calvin Brown the report's only 2 years old. I mean,
Yeah.
that would have to be reassessed.
I remember the report, but I honestly don't understand accounting, so I'm trusting
This
your,
sounds like the opposite of the direction we're going by having line items being itemized. And what I understand Maisha is saying is that as long as they stay within the big number, they can move things around while we're trying to break down those big
no,
numbers.
that's not what she said.
That's what she's saying.
That's not
She's
what,
saying within the department, they can move things around without coming to the council. That's exactly
that's what she
she's
was
saying.
asking for permission to do.
Well, that's what we're talking about. That's the concept.
Okay, but we currently, that's not allowed.
That's correct.
Exactly. And we
Okay.
want more specificity while this suggestion is going to global budget. Because right now we have an employee services that has everybody and we want that breakdown. But administration is suggesting that within the whole administration department,
Yes.
they can move from training to communication to postage to salaries. Am I representing it correctly?
I mean, there are limits in there which you can and can't do, but high level, yes.
So
I'm
to
not
put a
ready- I'm not ready for
paragraph
that tonight.
in there about, I guess, I think we should probably just ask Jason how to write that, about how to, my comment was directed at attempting to limit budget amendments for things that should be predictable, like, but obviously there's gonna be times
The
where
same predictable becomes unpredictable.
Of course. So, I don't want to overly restrict, but I also we shouldn't have to pass a resolution every year that says you can't move money from here to there to pay, borrow money from Peter to pay Paul on every time that there's a problem like we did this year. So there should be something a little bit more overarching, but not so restrictive that people can't, we can't pay overtime because we have a giant snowstorm. Like, I don't want that to happen. So I will ask for, there's gonna be a draft. This is just a discussion. Going to page, 15 of 19? Did anybody else have anything on this page?
The
Okay,
difference between putting the budget amendment limitation under 6.4 and not operating reserve. That's what threw me. Because you have a note for D under
Mhm.
6.5.
operating reserves, right? Oh,
Yes, but shouldn't be more aligned to 6.4 budget amendments.
oh, okay.
That's a technicality.
Yeah, but there might be a reason why.
Because we're
Okay.
specifically trying to limit.
Yes, that's right.
the
So,
budget
no, you're right.
amendments.
So moving
Freedom.
D up to 6.4, and then we'll number paragraphs like 1 and 2 or A. B.
Now, is there any need to control the operating reserves?
So that's funny. So the operating reserve number that's here was established in 1997, back when you could buy a house for like $30, and it's $150,000. The number that the figure we were given at MML, I think would probably be a better way to do it. So it's not a fixed number, but it's a percentage of the overall operating budget. We should probably just change the language to that And I think that they said, no, your operating budget, and that I have that PowerPoint. I gave you a copy too. And Cynthia was in the class with me, that, you should have no less than 12% of your operating budget in your reserve. And so changing it from 150 to 12% of your operating budget makes it a more enduring document than this random number of 150,000. Is everybody okay with that? That's the MML recommended number.
Do you remember it? from
12%.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good memory.
it's very weird the things that I can remember. Ask me what I ate for breakfast this morning. I don't know. So I'm gonna make that change to 12%. And I'll check the PowerPoint, but I know I have it. So 6.6 is just language updates. On bottom of page 14, top of page 15. Still language updates, but then we have what is now paragraph C. All direct deposits made in payment of employee salaries and checks issued in payment of employee salaries, whether issued manually or electronically, shall be drawn upon separate payroll checking account in which the unexpended balance may not exceed $200,000. The administrative officer, which obviously that has to be updated, shall be authorized to approve direct deposits and sign salary checks drawn upon the payroll account. And the mayor or mayor pro tem shall be authorized to approve direct deposits and sign such checks in the absence of what would be the city manager. I just wrote, is this still necessary? Are direct deposits approved? Like, I'll sign in papers for direct deposits now?
I approve the payroll register.
And that's like for everyone all at once?
Mhm.
So should we eliminate this language? Is this redundant?
I think it's redundant.
I would think that.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, so I think I'm gonna recommend repeal, and if Jason tells us we need it for some reason, he tells us.
And I would up that amount if y'all want.
Well, I think we're just gonna repeal it.
Oh, the whole,
Yeah,
Yeah, take the whole
oh,
thing out.
okay.
Yeah, so one less responsibility you're not doing off your plate. The language in what is now paragraph D, this was all one long paragraph. That's why I broke it up. I changed it from quarter because it said year. So I know that something that Maisha has brought to us since she came back to the city is that she's been giving us regular budget versus actuals, which has been really nice. Before that, we weren't getting that. And so I like the idea of us having that quarterly information as opposed to yearly. Because it puts us in a better position. Is everybody okay with that change to quarter? Okay. Then 6.7. I'm laughing because what little kids say 6.7. The petty cash amount, which was dictated in 1981, when, $50, you could probably buy a house in New Carrollton. Should we increase this? So it says here, a petty cash fund shall be established in the amount of $500 and then, but not to exceed $50 for a single purchase. I mean, I doubt that you guys are really paying anything in cash.
No, they have
Cash,
city
cash.
credit cards. It's
Yeah.
never used anyway.
So, but should we update this to be like,
Sometimes.
Do you use the petty cash fund?
Sometimes.
We do sometimes.
yeah, I imagine there's probably like a,
And so
Alternate.
500, maybe, that's the bill, and
Oh, yeah, the 500's fine.
500 fine.
and $50 per purchase?
I think
Yeah, I
that,
mean, we
that
really-
could probably go up. Like $50.
I mean, you can, but I mean, we really don't use.
Yeah.
petty
Yeah.
ca- I went to Annapolis and had to pay for parking. I mean, it's that type of thing.
Mhm.
We don't use petty cash that often.
Should we up that $50 amount or just leave it the way it is? I don't care either way.
I'd leave it.
Yeah, I was like,
Leave it? Okay. Nobody? The absence of any arguments.
Things have gone up. No, prices have increased, so
Yeah,
you could have
completely.
up it a little.
That's why I was
The
thinking
prices
upping,
are increased.
at least upping
Everything
to
is up.
50. 500 for petty cash sounds fine, but
Fine.
like maybe upping it to 100. Cause I
You
could see an
you
instance where
replenish the petty cash as soon as it's
You know.
completed, so.
something
But I said
happens,
$50.
somebody throws a
goes-
brick at the window over there, you have to buy some plywood to cover it. That's gonna be more than $50, maybe make it 100 for use in a single expense.
You're the boss.
Wayne?
Oh, I'm not,
bless you.
Thank you.
I'm
It's
not
gonna be a
really,
big omnibus bill.
I
anyway.
just, when this was written, you didn't have Zelle and you didn't have credit cards and you didn't have phone paying. And when I, like my issue, when I went to Annapolis, I didn't ask for petty cash. I used my credit card to pay for parking. So I think $50 is fine. I don't think this, when I was mayor, this was never used. So I think it's a kind of a moot point. You want to make it 100, make it 100. I don't know what they'd be using it for. We never had any cash go out the door when I was here. There were so many methods to pay. So, just an obscure point in this section.
If nobody's super averse to 100, I'll change it, because it's gonna be an omnibus bill anyway. It's not like we're paying Jason just to change this one thing, and that's the only thing we're doing.
That's all right. Change it to 100.
100 per expense. All right, going to page 16 of 19. Any and all monies and fees received by an officer or employee of the city government in his or her capacity is at the bottom of that. This is about, it says, it's chapter 6-8, receipt of, I've changed the spelling to monies and fees. And this is about our ticket revenue, but it's just very vague. I don't really know what was supposed to be here, but there's no explanation as to what this is supposed to be about. Obviously, it's not like someone goes and pays their ticket to, you know, Chief Alston and hands them money and he puts it in his pocket. Like, it sounds like the Wild West. I feel like this should just be clear about how people pay tickets.
Could it be jury duty? A city employee goes jury duty, like that's happened with us as federal employment. They get the regular salary and the $15 check, I have to submit it to HR because this is referring to employees of the city. But
Yeah, I don't really know what
if
this is
that's-
supposed to be about.
Okay,
I feel like
that's what.
No,
to ask
in the
Jason.
past here, the historical knowledge is that jury duty, when the funds remain with the server.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just gonna ask Jason what this paragraph is supposed to say, because I don't really understand it. This is something I think Dwayne will like, chapter 6-9. I ordered some paragraphs. It talks about the audit and when the audit has to be done and so on, and most of that's dictated to us by the state. But I like the idea of making a requirement that we will maybe not necessarily will or shall codify, but work to codify the recommendations of the auditor.
What
Or-
is, well, did he have any recommendations, Tom? Did you read the internal control report?
I haven't finished it yet.
Okay.
And honestly, I would need you to explain it to me anyway,
Yeah.
so.
Codified, right into the code what the recommendations are.
Right into the code, how we would effectuate the recommendations, you know?
Council 690.
This council's really been afraid to write legislation. I don't really know why. Like, when I say this council, not meaning these, the five of us.
I know.
Just in
Yeah.
general, historically, and so.
They haven't thought it all that necessary. I don't know that this is necessary, but, you think that they've been negligent? Is that your observation?
I just
So we
think
got the
that
90
if we
days on
have,
it?
like, you know, like you've said many times about the Calvin Brown report that, you know, was really significant, you know, you've repeated, we're not accountable, but what are we doing to become accountable? And so
I don't know
this
how
puts
we-
the onus on us to actually, if we're getting reports that say we're not doing something right, it
Yeah.
is upon the five of us to fix it. So this would be requiring us to actually take action when we get an auditor report. And I wouldn't even want to limit it just to the annual audit, like the Calvin Brown report was a special audit. If they're telling us we should do something, then we should do it. And we're the ones who have to pass the laws to make that happen.
Does it apply to the compensation study then?
That I'm open to it. So this language is a little prescriptive, but I could say that the council, I mean, maybe even if it would be to hold a meeting or a special meeting or shall agendize the recommendations and determine appropriate legislative remedies,
No, I'm all on board with that.
you know,
I'll consider and review.
yeah, recommendations
Yeah,
because.
I'm all on board with that.
Okay, so I'm gonna. Something like that is what the draft will say. So agendize and
So Chair Urbina,
yes,
for the one that you said he wasn't sure what it was, it says any monies or fees that are received. Say for instance, somebody got a code violation and they're supposed to pay $500, or somebody get a parking in a handicap sticker,
Mhm.
and they come in and they turn in cash save to pay for the ticket.
Mhm.
That money has to be for the city and not consumed by the person that received the money.
That's what I read it to mean, but I felt like it wasn't clear enough for like a regular person to understand.
Because
so-
I had to use that in my first administration.
Yeah, that's what I thought it meant. And it was the way it's worded is so weird that I just kind of want it a little bit more clear that if an officer receives money that is being paid for a fine or fee or a permit or something like that, that money goes into the city government ledger and is accounted for, like, you know, parking tickets go into the parking or into the municipal infractions budget line, or like, you know, like showing exactly what it's supposed to happen with the money, you know, more clearly. So I will,
Why would an officer receive this? I mean, are we referring to police officers or an officer like us? Because there's.
it's
no
funny because
reason
it says
for-
officer and
There's
employee,
no
it could be
reason for
anybody.
council members
be
to be
collecting money.
receiving any
Any money at
funds
all.
Yeah.
regarding permit fees or tickets, so.
Heck no, yeah, no, and I don't want anybody to give me money. I don't want to be responsible for anything. So this should be a little bit more clear about like how to pay things, right? Like you either pay online or you pay at the window over here and you get a receipt, like more clear so that nobody who reads this doesn't understand. You know, like I can't just flag down Chief Alston on the street and be like, hey, I got a red light camera ticket, take my $40, you know? Because I'm sure people try to do that. And that's a terrible idea. All right.
And no, you can't even pay cash at the police department. It's either credit card, money order, whatever it is.
Okay, yeah, so all of that could be clearly
it's
laid
because
out
of that
right
same
in
very
the
reason.
code. Yeah, so I may end up having to come to someone in administration for help on like how is this really actually happening? And I'll do it quickly. I don't have any questions about 610, 611. All right, so in addition to the statement of financial condition, income and expenditures required to be made available for the public inspection prior to elections, the mayor shall also provide for public inspection at least 30 days before each election, a listing of any proposed transfer of funds to avoid over expenditures. So this is like an additional public posting. This was written in 1997. Maisha, has anyone ever done this? Do you recall this ever? I think we should just strike it.
We're
Dwayne,
not
I'd
doing
strike
what
it.
the code says.
We're
and
not
there's no purpose, yeah, it should
Yeah.
come out.
Yeah, just take it out.
take it out, yeah.
Yeah.
Chapter 11, you're gone. Chapter 12, the council shall adopt a purchasing policy governing the use of competitive bidding and other aspects of the city purchasing procedures shall be administered by the mayor. Maisha, you said that that's in the works, right? A purchasing policy?
I had that was in the last meeting before that.
Yeah, they received it.
Yeah,
that-
did
that
we
was in
adopt
the
it already?
No, we didn't adopt it.
It was
Okay.
in the- Yeah, it was in the packet. So overall, there was a purchasing policy. And so what we did was actually create the procedure. Because this was done back in 2017.
Mhm.
Where the limits were increased from like 12,000 to 30,000,
Yes.
1,000 and all of that. And so what we did was just take this and actually do our actual processes. And so that was what was in your last packet.
We should make sure, it doesn't have to be codified, but we should make sure that that's a public document that people can see. Yeah, like on the website, like apart from an agenda packet, you know, in the drop downs, like purchasing.
This
policy.
ordinance is on the website, Caitlin said,
Okay.
because this is where she got this one. from.
Okay,
Oh,
perfect.
mhm.
That's fine. Bonding of officers and employees. These are some old numbers as well. They're from 1997, but were updated a little bit in 2018. It talks about the bonding of the comptroller and now which we call authorized signer, which is the council position I hold, 150,000, 50,000 for the others to ensure any loss sustained through any fraudulent or dishonest act. I don't know if those numbers are still good. I don't know who we would even ask legit if those numbers are
Legit would
appropriate.
be a good source to ask.
Yeah, but each
Okay.
year the bonding company sends out,
We have a bonding company.
yeah.
Yeah, so they probably tell us what it is. So maybe this should be changed to follow the recommendations of the bonding issuer. You know, and not put a fixed number of 150, because I bet it's higher now. Given how old it is.
But you still have to set a cap.
Yeah, so you have to give them a
You have
number.
to give them a cap.
Oh, you give them a number.
Right.
Okay. So are we all good with these numbers? Do we want them up?
Or what's at
Because
risk
based on
here?
the number determines how much we pay.
You have to pay for
Okay.
the bond.
Yeah. And
Because when I
what's at
came in, I
risk here?
reduced it
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
because
it's
the
not as much
bondings
at
were $1
risk.
million on each person.
Oh, wow.
It's like life insurance.
You only
we
had
pay
to
a
do
higher
150 for the law. Should we keep this the way it is?
I'd
Should
leave
we
it
raise
alone.
up? Okay. But obviously, or should we put in there something that allows it to be, well, I guess it says no less than, so you actually still can do more. So it's fine. All right, this is where I get, controversial, 614.
You look right at me.
Yeah.
know it.
Because Cynthia and I have talked about this before, and I think it's an area where we somewhat agree.
First question I had, do we donate anything to the Carlton Pool?
We haven't in the last 2 years at least.
You said donate to the pool?
Yeah, you know, yeah.
City
We
money.
used to give them that tax credit, or
Credit.
waiver of the credit.
That's what we give them,
and
yeah. They don't pay taxes.
Why?
We don't benefit
They are
from it.
501c7 nonprofit, which is the same kind of nonprofit like a big incorporated sorority would be, like AKA. It's a membership organization. So 501c3s, you have to serve everyone, right? Can't discriminate. You're subject to all that. 501c7s are membership organizations that don't turn a profit. And so they can't, they can set qualifications for membership, but they do, the purpose of a 501c7 nonprofit or any other 501 nonprofit legally is to bestow a public benefit. And I think for a long time that New Carrollton Pool did provide a public benefit because it was primarily utilized by people who lived here. Now it's not. There's a diversity of people who use it, including myself who lives here, but lots of folks who don't. And I don't want to take away their nonprofit status. I don't at all. But I do want to make a mandate that they have to serve a certain amount of New Carrollton residents because it's so unaffordable for most families.
Mhm.
And I don't want it to be like, if you don't serve this many New Carrollton residents, we're going to take your tax exempt status away. I'm not trying to put a gun to anyone's head, but I do think for two reasons, and Cynthia, you probably remember the meeting where I said this, like, this is a pool that had a history of systemic racism that did not allow African American members to join. And I learned this from white people who were around during that time who were members and told me that they were ashamed that they were members at that time. And so the reason why most Black people of a certain age don't know how to swim is because they weren't legally permitted to do so. And that created generations of folks who have not had access to swim. And so I think as part of a reparations, and I'm using that word intentionally, that they should provide a certain number of families with a free membership and a certain number of children with swim lessons. And I think that's restorative to the harm that they caused to this community. And I would like to invite them here to talk about that. I have tried talking about it with folks at the pool as a member. That has not been a welcome conversation. And I get it. Who am I? I'm brand new. I'm young. I didn't live here during this time, to tell these people what to do with their lives, but we're giving them a free benefit.
I like to speak from my personal experience. I've been in this community 15 years. I love the pool. I regularly go to Prince George's Sports Complex because that membership, I felt it was too much to one person, family member. Just one person in my household. I found it financially prohibited when I can go over there and pay $6. I would love to walk over to the pool. So something to make it more accessible. I mean, if you got several kids and whatever, but
in
I would like
defense
to
of the pool, the reason why it's $6 to go to a county pool and like $500 or something for one person to join the New Carrollton pool is the economy of scale. They don't make a profit. They are losing money. Every year they're coming up with new ways to cheap out on things because they're going broke. It
Who's
costs
they?
the pool itself,
New
New Carrollton Pool.
Okay.
They don't have enough money to operate that pool based on memberships alone.
If they were just $500 a house, how to get more people into the door.
They're not under enrolled. It's the cost of the chemicals, it's the cost of the labor, it's the cost of the equipment, it's the cost of, it's the cost of operation. It's not that they're under enrolled. They of course still are taking new members. They're not under enrolled. It's the economy of scale problem. The chemicals cost a lot of money. A lot of pools went out of business in the like years after the pandemic because the chemicals that are done for pools. So Prince George's County is taking all our tax dollars for 900,000 residents and putting it into these pools, and that's why it's able to be run so cheaply. And if you have a lot of kids, it's actually really, it can be cost prohibitive. But they do offer a lot of, I mean, my kids have enjoyed, my kid, the older one, the little one can't really do much yet, but the older one has enjoyed the opportunity to be in community, to be a part of swim team, to be a part of like it. There's so many good things about that pool. I want to offer it to more people, you know. Yeah. And it's 3 months of the year. So, you know, if you join, we are joining Greenbelt this year. And the reason why is because if you join Greenbelt, you get to swim all year round and it's almost the same cost. And in New Carrollton, you know, if it's a thunderstorm, you can't go in. If you only get the 3 months of the summer and the weather's not always great for swimming. So, you know, I think we paid when Tanya lived with us $725 a summer for the 6 of us in our household. And, you know, I probably went 4 times.
How much money are we talking about? Are they getting as a tax credit?
They don't pay taxes.
Okay, but if we change this, are we getting $50,000
No,
in revenue?
No, it would be really low because there's still a nonprofit.
10,000?
yeah, my guess would be 8,000-10,000, but I don't know.
Yeah, it would be low. It
You'd
was
have an
not,
assessment and whatever it's zoned for, it's not a house. So I don't know how they do that. But I don't think
I mean, it's a lot of acreage, but yeah, I don't know how they do it.
I don't think
I'm
we
saying, I
do.
thought it was about $10,000 or $12,000, but I'd have to go back.
That
and look.
sounds about right, but I don't think we do trash collection for them. We don't cut the grass.
No, their members do it.
Yeah, I think they
Um,
handle their own
Have
trash.
you ever been on the board of the pool, Dwayne?
No,
Okay,
I
I was
don't
just
go there, no.
curious.
I pay $500 a year to join and I go up 4 or 5 times a summer.
If I may interject, when you were on the council, you had mentioned that if people would give, say, for instance, a grant for some kids, say
Mhm.
5 kids or 10 kids, from a different family to be able to do swim lessons or so, it would at least make it worth the while. I did the same thing for the Greenbelt Soccer Alliance.
Mhm.
We were giving them money every year for youth activities grant. And one year I get very stringent. I said, how many people are from New Carrollton? 1 or 2. 1 year was only 1. So I was like, we're not gonna give you any money unless you can increase the membership or say, we're not gonna charge the New Carrollton kids money for this alliance. So it works out. And it did work out because now more people were able to join who couldn't afford prior to.
So you're suggesting maybe that we offer them a grant to serve our kids. I'm suggesting that they do it for free.
No, not a grant, that's what I'm saying. They would be the one giving
Oh,
the
okay, they would be giving.
access to kids to be able, from New Carrollton to be able to use the pool.
Yes.
And it wouldn't cost them anything more because they still have to buy the same amount of chemicals.
One day a week for 2 people
Yeah,
would be beneficial.
I think we have to invite them and we have to learn their capacity. The coach who does swim team, he doesn't get paid. And he's the guy who also does swim lessons. He's a New Carrollton resident, great guy. So, you know, I know we can't commit him and say like, you're gonna give 10-year-old swim lessons 5 times a summer or something. Like we have to know what they can
So
do,
the
but.
rest are most
Yeah,
of
we
the
can
people
Mr.
live out
Mr.
of
Chair,
town.
is a member, correct?
Yes,
Would you be able to reach out to them and try
Oh,
to
sure.
get them on a
Sure, I can get
agenda
one, sure.
upcoming?
I'll do
Most of
that.
the people live out of town.
Well, I think I can be successful
Okay.
doing that. Let's see what else we got. Should we change
Mhm.
Can
I feel
you
like
be
he-
able to?
I
I'll
feel
do
like
that.
he has a better shot than we did.
Director of Finance to Comptroller? I think we're okay with that.
Yeah, so
Bottom
we're,
of the page, we can move on to 18.
all right, 18. All right, now we're in chapter 14.
You guys want to go home too?
I definitely want to go home. All right, so,
Comptroller, that's
I have
fine.
some notes here, chapter C14, paragraph B, I made a note, this was last updated in 2002. Should we put something in here about COLAs and performance pay? So this paragraph talks about the city shall operate on an annual budget. The mayor shall submit an operating capital budget on such date as we already have that codified in another chapter. So actually, we should probably say that there. The budget shall be a complete financial plan for the budget year. And the anticipated revenue shall equal or exceed the total of proposed expenditures. I didn't have anything in here. We don't have anything here about salaries, but employee compensation is the majority of our budget. So do we want to put anything prescriptive in here? Looking at it a second time, I want to say no, actually.
No.
In compliance with the new, all right, so this is your item, Agnelli, talking about notice. So budget adoption. Before adopting the budget, the council shall hold a public hearing thereon, publishing of that notice. So that's addressed in chapter 6, but we could probably put that again here in chapter 14 since it's in both places right now anyway.
Mhm.
All of the publishing
So
requirements.
you're okay with not touching B?
Yeah. Yeah, I am okay with that. So publishing requirements, just making sure that the budget is published and the hearing.
In the changing the publication of general circulation to website, social
Yes.
media, constant.
Perfect. All right, appropriations, I made this into paragraphs as well.
Okay.
Hi.
Doesn't the mayor still have the right to commit us anything under 30,000?
30,000,
30,000.
anything over 30,000, the mayor has to come to us, yes. That is in another code.
Look at D3. Any transfer of funds between appropriations for different purposes must be approved by the council. So that connects back to the problem we're having and to the consideration of either global authority to move money or specific.
That's that was already in there.
That's
So
always
that's not
been
something
there.
I wrote.
Just
That
like-
was what
Yes,
that's what it said already.
Given our current experience,
Mhm.
do we want to
Strengthen it?
expand that language? And what happens?
Okay.
I mean, when the mayor spends more money that is being approved, which is the headache we have right now. I think.
Get rid of the
something
precedent,
here
too.
should be like-
That's a mayor. She just-
Cynthia,
for
they
me.
can't see you at home when you're over there, but speak up. Yeah, well, the people at home, maybe they can get the camera over there, yeah.
Whoa.
Do we just, people think I'm most down to see right now. In the federal government, like a month or 6 weeks before our budget ends, we do a thing called D-OB, where we go into areas that they had money and they didn't spend it, and we put it back into a bucket in case somebody else needs it. Do they do that in the state government? Do y'all do that?
So money that we didn't use?
Yeah.
So that's when we do a budget. When we do budget amendments, we look at overall, we look at everything and say, okay, realistically, we're not going to spend this year. And so when we go to do a budget amendment, instead of pulling from the general fund reserves, prior year reserves, we'll decrease another line item to then increase another. That's how we pretty much try to do budget amendments. Stay within what we are currently appropriated for the year and just move things around.
And that's what the administration expected to happen with these salaries. Because the council has approved these budget amendments just because they're presented. That was the expectation, as I understand it. More money was offered than was in the budget because we were going to do a budget amendments at the end and move money that has been saved from empty positions to cover salaries above the approved amount. And I would like more guardrails in that regard in this chapter.
And
I
we
don't
understand that now. The only thing is, I started here in 2015, and this has been what have occurred since before I started. Because even when I started, that's what Graham and Scaria showed me. This is how we do it. So, I mean, it's fine, but I think that expectation had to kind of be the guardrails put around it.
So I guess the question is, I don't know what guardrails we can put in. Like, I don't know what consequence or like what could, that's a Jason question, I think, of like, what's,
I thought they said make it.
if the law is
Jail.
violated,
That's
what
they said.
happens?
You know.
Jason would have to answer that because I don't know what the answer is.
Well, he answered it in executive session, but can't talk about that, so.
But I mean, we're allowed to write laws, so we can ask him what to write here. I think that we have to ask him what to write here.
Okay.
So I will. And I'm gonna work on all of this weekend. Is that the last one? Where's page 19? Okay. Page 19. All right, so I enumerated the paragraphs, but what is now paragraph F says the council shall provide for the financial books and accounts of the city to be audited. I wanted to change it to administration because we don't hold anything. We can't give anything. The city has to do it. So is everybody okay with me changing that?
Well, that's
to-
what's happening now. The administration is turning it over for
Yeah,
us.
so
That's fine.
just
I
change
have
the
no
law to
problem
make
with
it administration. And then, financial statement at least 30 days before the general election. That's the same, it's basically the same language as that other one that we just struck. So I think we should just strike it again. That before elections, the mayor is supposed to put out this big financial report. I don't think anybody's ever
I
done
would
that.
strike that.
All right, so that's stricken. And then, C18, this is about the purchases and procedures that Maisha just spoke about. So I don't think we have to do anything anymore.
Maybe I missed it. Where is the 30,000 limit?
It's in
on
a different, completely different,
document?
a completely
I
different.
know it's in
chapter of the
ordinance
code.
1708,
But it's in a different,
but it's somewhere else.
it's somewhere else in the code. It's not a budget item.
Oh,
These are all,
purchasing.
these are all the
Never
things that
done
were
it on my
related to
30
budget,
pounds.
It's
You're
chapter
looking for
27.
something
chapter 27.
kick rocks.
Yeah, I was like, it's a different chapter of the code completely.
All right, I'll take
It's
care
not
of it.
related to the budget? I mean, I see.
It's
it.
related to purchasing. I
It's in the
mean,
code.
yeah, this is all code too, but it just isn't in.
Yeah, so.
These were all
even in
code
the
chapters.
budget-
No, this was code.
Within the
yeah.
budget, we are specifying all these things. And I know there's somewhere, chapter 27 of the code.
If you
talks
want,
about the limits of the mayor in spending money. So maybe that's where we need to expand the language on not just spending more than 30,000 without council approval, but spending more than whatever the budget line is for a given item.
so
But the
It's
30 pounds, we
it's
don't have that
different.
problem right now.
it's different. So budget has to do with these three chapters are the only chapters that speak to spending money that's been budgeted or not budgeted for. The chapter 27, I don't remember what the title of the chapter is, but the code provision that says 30,000 has to do with purchasing. So that's still, you could be purchasing things that are budgeted or not budgeted, but most things that we purchase are budgeted. And so that's why it's in a separate chapter. I can look at chapter 27 and see if there's anything that needs to be added or subtracted. But these were the three out of all, I read the whole code to determine which chapters needed to be revised so that we can inform the city as to what we're expecting from them in the budget. And so these were the three chapters that had requirements around budget. But I understand where you're coming from, but it's not the right chapter.
Well, again, given the experience and the pain we're going through, something related to the budget limit the administration's ability to spend more money than the council has approved, because that's within our power.
And these are the three chapters that address
Okay,
that.
so I
That
don't
other,
know-
that 30,000, can't spend more than 30,000 on the council consent, that's not a budget issue. That's a purchasing
Okay,
issue.
no, I'm
Yeah.
clear on that,
Yeah.
but
Mm.
something in this chapter.
Yes, that's what we're gonna have to ask Jason about what the guardrails can be, because I don't know what's legally permitted for us to do. Like, we censure the mayor, we sue the mayor. Like, I don't know what we're supposed to do when the law is violated.
Not do budget amendments.
Well, I mean, but budget amendments,
For me, it's so black and white.
That was earlier in the agenda and it's getting late at night.
yeah, but also budget
I think we
amendments
do this.
sometimes will have to happen and they'll be completely legitimate.
Yeah.
I move that we adjourn.
Well, wait, I'll take care of the pool thing and we're done with the rest of this. Now, let me hear your motion.
I move that we adjourn the Monday, March 23rd. Oh, March
23rd.
2026. The
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, none
I
opposed.
have a lot of homework.
Thank you. Yes, you do. I have a little bit. I gotta go to the pool.
Wait, I had public comments.
Oh. We want to.
Just kidding. Go home.
Oh, good.